Good morning to everyone. Welcome to Provision-ISR seminar for today. Today's seminar is about DDA analytics. Before we start, just a few things to explain you about today's seminar and about DDA in general. Today's seminar is about DDA analytics. It's one of our seminars inside the analytic concept, which is part of a big seminar that we have for you to teach you everything you need to know about analytics. We'll touch one part of the DDA analytics today, which is line crossing. And we will explain you a lot about it. This seminar today will be about 50 minutes to 1 hour. And before we start, I would like to show you a few things in our website that later on you can also use. The first thing you need to know is about knowledge sharing in our website, where you can find a lot of information. Start with today's webinar's recording. This webinar is being recorded, and you will be able to find the recording of today's webinar when you go to our website, knowledge sharing and live webinars. When clicking live webinars, you can see the past seminar that we have and the upcoming ones. So for today, this is the one we are having today, 11th of May, 11 a.m. Israel time. Right now it's still under register. However, later on, probably today or tomorrow, you will see a similar icon like you see here. Watch again. So basically, you can view the recording of today's seminar. I also like to remind you that we have the same seminar today at 4 p.m. You are welcome to invite anyone else you would like to have that you think is important to listen to this seminar. Another thing I would like to show you is that everything we will teach you today, you can also find in Provision-ISR solutions. When you go to DDA analytics, you can find a lot of information that we are going to talk about, including what is DDA, what is the meaning of it, what kind of application we can use, a little bit on how to install it and how to set it up. And you can find a lot of information in our website regarding it. This seminar will be hosted by David from our technical department. Also, you should know that your microphones are closed. This is an open and closed microphone seminar. However, I'm available in the chat box. So every time you have a question or something you would like to know or to remark or to ask, you're more than welcome to ask on the chat, like you see here, already open. And please send a message on the chat box. At the end of the seminar, we will leave room for questions that you are welcome to open your mic, ask away, or still ask on the chat box, now ask on behalf of it. So sit back, enjoy, and David, let's start.
Thank you, Amnon. Thank you very much. We will start by sharing the screen. Okay, so we are actually doing today a webinar that is its purpose is to teach how to properly install and set a camera for the artificial intelligence. Cameras make our life much easier while they're preventing us from false alarms, and they give us the ability to give the proper focus for actual events that happen. So it is a good thing, but we do need to know that in order to get those good recognitions and successful rate of recognition, we need to properly to give the camera the right conditions. Okay, whether it is in the right settings or in the right installation. And that is exactly what we are planning to do in this webinar and with the following one, which will be in on the sterile area. So first, let's see what we are going to talk about today. This, of course, not going to be a long session, maximum 1 hour, supposed to be. We're going to talk about, first of all, we're going to see what is line crossing, what's the idea behind it, the introduction, the application scenarios. We're going to investigate where and how it give us a benefit. Okay, in what kind of scenarios we're gonna use it. We're gonna see some tips for how to install the camera in order to get good result out of it.
Sorry, David. Sorry, go ahead.
Then we're going to see how to set it up. So we're talking about line crossing. We're gonna see how to set it up from a IP camera and VR and from VMS. By the way, this part is going to include a live demonstration on our actual devices here. And in the end, we're gonna talk about fine tuning. Every part like this, in the total, it's going to be about 50 to 1 hour. So we all know where we stand. Okay, so first of all, what is line crossing? Maybe first, before that, maybe we can talk about what is DDA. DDA is our way for to say artificial intelligence: detect, distinguish, and alert. It means that the camera has the ability to detect on a familiar object, to distinguish what kind of an object it is, and to alert, to give us a sign, some kind of an alert that this thing has happened. So basically what happens, the user, me, you, the installer, distributor, whoever is using the system and wants to set it up, is going to actually drawing a line. The line will separate between one part of the scene to the other part of the scene. And whenever somebody crosses that line, we're gonna get an alert. Okay, we're gonna get an event, an alert, whatever we choose. Of course, we can set the lines in both directions. We're gonna see it. Important thing to know is that when we have a familiar object, of course, the camera can detect a human or a vehicle, which is a familiar object. When we have a familiar object, the camera has a square that surrounds this object. Okay, it recognizes this person. There is going to be a square or a rectangle, as we can see right here, around the person. Now, whenever this square is passing the line, or actually touching the line, this is the point where we get the event. So the camera doesn't really know that the tip of the elbow has touched the line, a part of this person. The camera knows that the surrounding object of this, the surrounding box of this object is touching the line. Okay, so you have a human, you're gonna have a square around it. You have a vehicle, you're gonna have a square around it. Whenever the square is touching the line, this is where we have an event. Those object boxes that I'm talking about, they can be seen only when you're connected to the camera via web or locally through the NVR. There are settings that we can just, by a click of a button, we can choose and see those actual object boxes. Next, we're going to investigate some scenarios where and how to this ability is helping us, where we can use it. So our first example is going to be an example for home safety, okay, to protect our home. So in this case, we can see an image, we can see two burglars that are inside, and of course, the line crossing, which is set inside, right in front of the door. You can see, okay, you can see that the line crossing is set to the crossing direction that we want to set. Okay, you can choose one direction or two direction, whatever you choose. We can choose what kind of an object the camera is going to detect. Is it a vehicle or a human or a two-wheel vehicle? So in this case, since it's a home, we can choose humans. Of course, that if your camera is placed outside, for example, and you want to detect humans and vehicles, it's possible. The camera can detect all three objects at the same time. But in a property, in a home, it's more logical that we will use humans. Triggers. The triggers is actually the alert that we are going to get from the camera. So a trigger can be a reaction, you might say. So as a response to this, as a reaction to this line crossing, the camera, first of all, is going to record. Of course, everything is controllable. You can control what is happening. A push notification is going to be sent to our application, and we're going to send an email. Now, those are the three triggers that we thought of that will be suitable for this kind of application. Of course, you can have much more triggers than this. So just like what we saw before, with the home safety, we have school safety. Okay, the camera can be used to protect school. Also, by line crossing, we can see that the line is drawn right over here. Okay, now we have a laser pointer. We can see it. Again, we're gonna choose the distinguished object. By the way, take a look that in this case, the arrow points to both directions. Okay, because we do want to know if a children has left the school or if somebody that's not supposed to be here has entered into it. So we distinguish humans and we have the triggers, okay, just like we saw before. But in this case, we also added audio alerts. So whenever somebody enters inside, you can throw an audio alert through the speaker or anything that suits that location. Same as we did before, we have penitentiary abilities, okay? Again, line crossing, this is a prison in that example. Also will be detecting humans that are exiting or entering into the facility. And the triggers that we will use here are also alarms. What kind of an alarm? You can trigger an alarm output that will close all of the doors, all of the gates in this prison, or activate all of the sirens, okay, at the same time, using, of course, the alarm outputs on the NVR or on the cameras. Same thing for car yard monitoring. Okay, this is another great example. You have a car yard, okay, a lot of vehicles inside. We have the line crossing both directions once again. But in this case, of course, in this case, we can see humans and vehicles. Okay, if somebody steals a vehicle, of course, we need to know. Unlike the other applications we saw, in this case, we have a time schedule. Time schedule means that we are going to get those events only on the time that we choose. So in this case, at night. Okay, so at night, nobody's supposed to enter, and we are going to get alerts when somebody is leaving the perimeter with a vehicle in a house that they're not supposed to be there. Also, emails, audio alerts, and alarms, and a lot of other things. One-way road monitoring. In this case, there is a different kind of an application that we can use the line crossing. Okay, in this case, we're gonna choose a crossing direction for the line, and we would like to get an alert whenever a vehicle has driven in the wrong direction. You see, cars are supposed to move only that direction. Whenever somebody is crossing, a vehicle is crossing in the line of the arrow, then it means in that direction. So we're going to get an alert. Of course, in this case, we're only going to mention vehicles. We don't care if humans are walking there. What are we going to get? Those kind of alerts. Also in shops and offices, okay, safety, exactly the same idea. It's just like home safety. Just that in this case, you can also do this. In this case, our camera, our NVR, we have the ability to combine alerts, combine it whenever two events are happening at the same time. So it means that for once, somebody is going to cross the line, okay, in the forbidden hour, of course. And if that is combined with the alarm system, the entire place alarm system that has been triggered, then only under those two conditions, we're going to get an actual alarm. Okay, so your system is going to send alerts only when you left the office or the shop, and you activated your alert, your alarm, your system alarm. Your system alarm will throw a dry contact into the NVR, and then the NVR will basically, this would be one of its combined alerts. Okay, so the system can work in the same time with the system alert. Okay, next we're going to see some tips for how to properly install the camera. Okay, our cameras can be installed in a lot of different places. It has a built-in algorithm, but of course we need to provide a good installation so that people and vehicles will be recognized at the same time. not too small or not too big. What we can see in the next, in this slide is actually the correct dimensions for how to actually install the camera, how the dimensions of the objects supposed to be in order to get a proper detection or a proper recognition. So we can see here scene. Okay, this is the frame of the scene taken by the camera. We can see a line of grid, a lot of different rectangles. Okay. Now we can see that the size of a human, in order for this human to be detected, okay, should be approximately 8%. 8%, it means that it's supposed to be in the size of one of the bricks here. Okay, so a person in this size, where the pointer is, as we can see it in the 8%, exactly in the 8% size, this kind of human is a little bit on the limit, on the edge, but it will be recognized by the camera. But for example, this person right here, which is very, very small, we can barely see it. It is much, much smaller than the rectangle that we can see. It's maybe 3%. So in this case, the human won't be able to be recognized. Okay, so we have some set of some rules for vehicles and for humans. So four-wheel vehicle is supposed to be approximately 8 by 8 on its size in order to be detected, and humans supposed to be 4 by 8. So 4 by 8, it means that this is the 4. Okay, we can see the size of it. We can see the size of the rectangle, and the 8, it means that the human should take approximately 1 of the squares. Now we have another example. Okay, this is an example for how things are not supposed to look like. If we, by the way, this line of grid, okay, this grid net that we can see is actually going to be visible actually on the camera when we set it up, starting from version of 5.1.1, which will be released soon. And of course, that this will help us better in order to install the camera. Okay, because we'll be able to see live how big are the humans and how big they should be, or the vehicles. So in this case, we can see that the people and the vehicles are way too small for the camera to detect. Okay, the objects do not meet the minimum size requirements. So in this case, we shouldn't expect the camera to be able to recognize these objects, as the vehicles and the cars are way too small than the ideal. Next, we're gonna talk about the installation distance and height. So the cameras, there should be installed in a height of between 2.2 meters to 10 meters in a height, of course, that you can install them lower or higher, but those are the ideal settings. Of course, it depends on what kind of a camera you have, if it's a motorized varifocal or not, but those are the ideal recommendations. Now, a human would be detected in a distance of between 4, okay, the 4 to 40 meters. Of course, it depends on the camera lens, whether it is a 2.8, which will be 4 meters, or a 7 to 22, that is going to give you a much longer distance of recognition. Now, of course, that the vehicle will give you much longer distance for detection, since vehicles are much bigger than humans. Of course, that there is a table that shows exactly the length of the camera and what is the exact distance from between the object to the camera that we should maintain. Now, I can tell you that cameras can detect in longer distance than what we declare, but the recognition rate, the success rate, is actually decreased. Okay, so of course, in order to maintain a near perfect recognition rate, we should maintain the distances that we are providing. Recommended camera angle. How should we install the camera for proper recognitions? So there is here a very nice drawing that really explains how should we install the camera. So let's start with recognition for humans. Okay, so when it comes to human, No, there isn't a special angle that we're demanding for it to be installed. But the most important part is that the camera will be able, one second, that the camera will be able to detect the person from the side or from the front or from the back. Okay, it doesn't matter, the camera will recognize the human because the built-in algorithm detects upper body, lower body, and the hands and the head. So, for example, if the upper part of the person is going to be hidden, something like this, if he's wearing a box, then the recognition rate will be lower and probably won't recognize. Another problematic installation would be from the top. If a person, right here, if a person is being captured from the top, also most of the parts of his body are basically gone. We cannot see the legs and we cannot see the stomach, so, and the chest. So the camera only sees the head from the top, and in these cases it might be problematic for it to detect. Still, it will detect, but in lower percentage, as I said. For vehicles, a better way to install the camera would be if the camera detects the objects from the side. As we can see from here, from the vehicle, and as we can see from the drawing, okay, we can see that the green parts of the drawing tells us that the better recognition will be from the side, and the worst will be from the front. As we can see here with the bike, no, do not install it in this kind of way. It's better to have it from the side. Same goes for vehicles, exactly the same. Vehicle gives us a longer, wider angle that we can install the camera because the car is more visible from different angles. This is the table.
Just one thing, David, go back, please. I would like to draw your attention to human beings especially. With so many installations, that the camera is mounted on top of at the entrance door, for example, watching down, like you see in the example of the human beings monitoring from the up, where it says no very clearly. Now, why do I want to draw your attention? Because in the old style analytic that was based on motion pixel, yes, this was the way to install camera for line crossing. To install it monitoring and looking down, down on the line. While in DDA analytic, where we want to be able to distinguish what is it that crossed the line, the camera needs to be able to view the object itself in whole, not from the top, not from the front, like we see in cars or in bikes, but from the side. So we will be able to distinguish that this is a human being in full. And this is why it's very important to understand the differences between artificial intelligence or DDA analytic and old style analytic, which was based on motion pixel. All you need to do is to see that something crossed the line. You don't care about what crossed the line. Here we want to know what crossed the line, and we need to be able to distinguish the object. And this is why we need to monitor it from the side. Thank you.
Thank you, Amnon. Okay, this table will give us an idea for what to expect in a matter of the camera that we have, or what camera should we buy for the scene that we are planning to install the camera. So if we're planning to install a camera that will detect people from about 15 meters, people in about 15 meters, then we will probably go with the 12mm camera, which is 2.812, okay, with a varifocal camera, varifocal lens, motorized lens. We can see here all of the parameters regarding to the recognition distance. So for pedestrian, okay, for a human being, the longest distance possible for this camera, for 12mm, will be 25 meters. The recommended distance will be between 5 to 20 meters. And for vehicles, those are the parameters. Maximum distance is 35, but the recommendation will be between 15 to 30 meters away from the camera.
Also here, David, sorry, David, just one thing, because we see it in many installations. In most of the fixed dome cameras, we're looking at a 2.8 millimeter lens camera. This is very important to understand. We see a lot of installation where the installer install a 2.8 millimeter lens, and the end user is expecting the camera to be able to recognize, and by the way, the camera is monitoring a parking lot, for example, and there is an expectation that the camera will be able to recognize a human being at the distance of 20 meters, at the fence surrounding the parking lot. It's important to understand, this is why we added that table here, to show you that with the camera lens of 2.8 millimeter lens, when the camera is installed in a proper installation, 2 meter and up, the maximum distance the camera will be able to recognize a human being is 8 meters. No more than that. Don't expect the camera to be able to recognize at the distance of 20, 30 meters from the camera, and when it doesn't, and there is no alarms or trigger when somebody jump over the fence, which is 30 meters away from the camera, please understand why. The camera cannot recognize from that distance with that kind of an angle of a 2.8 millimeter lens. So choose the camera wisely, adjust the lens according to find the right lens, or to at least make the right expectation from your customer of what is the actual realistic distance that the camera can recognize the object. Go ahead, Dave.
Thank you, Amon, for the important input. So yes, we should match our expectations and our clients' expectations to the actual performance on the field. Okay, our next part is going to touch about an actual installation, how to install the camera, and what are our rules that we should keep. So first of all, we have guidelines for positioning the lines. Actually, I think we should start with guidelines for how to position the camera. So let's move on the, of course, we can move a little bit on the different rules that we have. We shouldn't do it directly above objects, mainly for human recognition, just like with what we saw before, with when the camera is placed directly above a human, it will have difficulties in recognizing it. Do not have direct light on the camera. If you have direct light on the camera, it will just, it might make the scene to be black, which reduces the contrast, and in the end, the camera won't be able to detect or recognize a human, okay, because of because the scene will be too not bright, too dark. No strong light behind the object. Same reason, it will basically make the entire object look dark, okay, and it won't allow the camera to have a proper detection to the object. Maintain the optimal distance. Of course, the optimal distance is what we talked about, to match the camera to the scene that we are planning to install the camera. And another important thing that we should say is that on the cameras, on the 2.8 millimeter cameras, since the lens is wide, the far end, the tip of the camera, where is what you see in the, where the mark is. Let's say that this is a 2.8 camera, so the edges, really the edges of the frame itself, okay, the edges of the picture, are going to be a little bit distorted because of the angle, because of the lens. It can affect a little bit on the recognition. So of course that normally we won't have the line set to be so far away from the object. Usually the far part of the frame is also physically also very far from the camera. So we anyway are not gonna do it, but it's very important to mention that it can affect the recognition, okay, the distortion that it has. And the max distance for this kind of a camera is 8 meters, okay, 8 meters from the camera. What will be our guidelines to position the line? Okay, how to position the line itself on the scene. As we remember from the first slide, we talked about that there is an object box, the yellow object box that surrounds the person. Whenever the object box touches the this is where the event is happening. This is where the magic happens. So we need to make sure that the object is clearly visible when it crosses the line. Okay, if we draw the line right in the edge of the camera, right here, okay, where my laser pointer is, and the person is entering into the, okay, passing the line, maybe the camera won't recognize, won't detect the human. And why? Because it didn't had enough time to recognize a human being, and until the camera did it, takes about half a second, but until it did it, the person was already after the line, because the line was in the edge of the, okay, of the frame. So we need to make sure that the human is detected, that the camera has about half a second to recognize the person, and then when it passes the line, everything is good, and it will be recognized. We need to make sure also the line covers most of the area where the object is passing. It means that if we take this line, for example, we draw this line from one end of the wall to the other end of the wall. If we drew the line only in this part, or even on the door itself, this is a recipe for trouble, because maybe the person will walk from the side of the line, maybe it won't be detected. So we need to make sure that the line is as big as possible and covers the entire area where for sure the human is going to pass. Also, okay, and it's not written here, but in this case, we can see that the arrow is meant only from one direction. Okay, only people that are passing from the outside to the inside will be detected. In this kind of installation, if this human, okay, if this person is walking around in the lobby, right here, and we have a two-way line, okay, from in to out and out to in, okay, both directions. If this human is walking around the lobby and his object box touches the line, even though that this person hasn't left the room yet, but because of this angle, the object box will touch the line and it will give us an alert, okay, an alert for that this person has left, but he actually just moving around in the lobby. So also we need to make sure that we draw the line in logic so it won't give us false alarms. Okay, same example in this case. Okay, in the house that is being protected, we can see that the line, in this case, the line is not drawn all the way to the end. And why is that? Exactly because of the reasons that we mentioned before, that the objects won't be recognized, or it will be very difficult to recognize them when they are so far away from the camera. So if the line is all the way down there, it probably won't have any effect. So if we do want to protect a long perimeter, okay, like this, like a long backyard of a house, then we would probably use two cameras, okay, one from the start and one for the end, so that we have a 100% recognition and not partial recognition. Next, we're gonna see some examples for how to install the camera. Okay, good installation for the camera, for a line crossing, of course. So number one, we can see basically a car yard that is meant to detect humans and vehicles. Now we can see here a bunch of drawings. This is an actual capture from an actual camera for one of our clients. We can see here 4 different lines. Okay, there are 4 different lines that are working simultaneously. In order to, you can draw up to 4 lines where it's written here, so we can see it. So this camera will recognize those people. Same goes in here. Okay, we can see here a line crossing example for humans and 2-wheel vehicles. Of course, it's on the sidewalk, and we see that the line is drawn right here in the middle. And we can see another example right here for vehicles, for one-way street. It's similar to the example we saw before. Vehicle cannot pass from one side to the other, but the right direction is okay. But if a vehicle is moving the wrong direction, then we will get an event. We can see that the installation is very close to the vehicles. Okay, the vehicle is very clear. Even humans are very clear inside. This is very good installation. It's close to the scene, and it really captures exactly what it should. Same goes in the detection for humans. Okay, the upper body and the lower body of the passing person is very clear. It won't be hard for the camera to detect this person, either for entrance or for exit. We can see that the line is set for both directions, right? And the line is not directly next to the door, so the camera has a half a second to detect a human. Now we're gonna see some rogue installation, the things that we should avoid. So number one, we can see that the installation, in this case, it's not a bad installation when we talk about the angle. Okay, it can be good, but the problem here is something that we all probably got the chance to encounter. It's when you install a camera next to a wall, really close to a wall, and in night time, whenever it's night, and the camera's infrared light is turning on, then the infrared is actually brighten the entire wall. Okay, the wall reflects back into the camera, and the camera turns black. So the entire hallway, where we can see that in day the hallway is very clear and we can see everything perfectly, in nighttime the hallway is just a big black hole, so we cannot see anything. So the camera won't be able to detect people as well. So in daytime it will be good, but the other 12 hours in nighttime, the camera won't be able to recognize anything. In this case, the installation, number two, the installation is actually not bad. Okay, the size of the human will be okay, it will be good enough. The problem here is actually with the positioning of the line. And the problem is that the line that is placed, it is a little bit too high than what it should. We can see according to the line direction that we're supposed to detect human beings that are entering into our parking lot where they shouldn't. Okay, people that are breaking in basically. Now, if the line is placed way too high, just like this, whenever a person is jumping from the out to the inside, he probably won't be detected because first his upper body will show and then the lower body will just jump across the fence, but the camera won't be able to recognize him until it's too late. So what we should do in this kind of case, the line should be placed lower. Okay, so whenever a person has been detected, he's already halfway down and the human is detected and then he crosses the line. Okay, it's pretty similar to placing the line on the edge of the frame. If anything is misunderstood, please ask your questions. Number three, this is very obvious. The camera is placed way too high. Everything is really small. We cannot see anything. We cannot understand anything. The pool is barely looks like a pool. So, of course, it's very logical. And if we want to search for humans, to detect humans, even if the height was good, still we have a problem with the angle. We said that directly above a person, it's not a good idea. Number four, of course, we can find a million examples like this. We ask you to, whenever there is an installation, to think of the factors. What might interrupt us from getting our results, our good results? So in this case, this is a see-through fence. So let's say that you want to protect this area from people. We don't want people to enter, okay, from the fence. But what is the problem here? This fence is, it's not solid, right? We can see through this fence. So the camera doesn't really know that there is a fence over here. So if a person is going to walk on the other side of the fence, the camera will detect this person and give us false alarms. This can be a really an innocent person that had done nothing and just walking in the other side of the fence. Camera detects it and he's touching the line. But when we get an event, and actually there's nothing that's wrong, just that the camera detected a person from the other side of the fence. So in this case, what we would do, we would probably install the camera in a different angle. Okay, so we can see the line, the fence, not in front of us, but to the length. Okay, we can see the fence to the length. So we actually perimeter the camera, the same way as we saw before with the house. Okay, that we had a line on the barrier of the house. Okay, now some things are not some things are not in our control, under our control, and we're talking about weather conditions. So of course, that when we use fog or rain and snow, they can affect our cognition, even though that we have the right proper of equipment, the correct camera, and the installation is good. But if the fog or the rain is too severe or too hard, too rough, then it means that the camera will have difficulties in recognizing the objects. The camera has proven itself in different scenarios. Okay, snow and rain and everything. But of course that there is a limit to anything. So if the rain is too strong and the fog is too thick, of course it will affect the camera's ability. Another thing that we normally we won't even think about it, but life taught us otherwise, is that some other factors are not under our control. Something like external factors. So in this case, this is an actual false alarm that we got from one of our clients back here in Israel. He had an installation right here in a yard. Okay, it protects some vehicles. In the middle of the night, a spider just walked on the lens of the camera, and it hid the line crossing. There was a line crossing. The spider basically hid the vehicle, and once the spider moved away, the vehicle was appearing again, and the camera thought that the line was crossed. So basically no line was crossed, but there was an insect that was walking on the camera. Our next part is going to touch the settings, how to properly install the camera, not to install, but how to properly set it up with the settings themselves. We're going to see the settings for the camera. Here on the presentation, the NVR and the VMS, we're going to see an actual demonstration using and also on the application of the phone. We're going to see them live. So for starters, let's see what we're going to do when we talk about the camera. So we have the camera, of course, we will place the IP address and we're going to enter into the camera. When we're inside and we can see the image and everything, we're just going to press the config button. Simply go to the analytics. Now, this is, I will say it for you, the participants, this presentation is also a tool that you can use laterwards when you want to set it up. Of course, it also exists on our website in many other locations, as Amnon showed before. But this presentation will be accessible for you in order to use for your needs. So this is just like a tutorial. We're gonna go into the analytics. It's very, very simple. We're gonna go into the line crossing. Inside line crossing, we will just enable. Okay, once you enable, you will get all of this screen. And in this screen, you can choose, first of all, you can choose what kind of an object is going to be detected. In this case, we have all of the objects, but of course you can filter out what you don't need. We will choose, okay, we will choose the additional triggers that can be set from the camera itself. If the camera has alarm out, then you can activate it. Of course, you can trigger an email straight away from the camera or record into the SD card if there is one connected into the camera. Next, we're going to press area right above here. Okay. We enter the area, and this is what we're going to see. We will see the alarm line. Okay, we are currently in alarm line number 1. You can press this button, and you can set separately 4 different lines that will work simultaneously. And of course, for each line, you can draw a different direction. Line number 1 can be a direction from A to B, and line number 2 can be both directions. 1 second. Okay. So we will draw the line with logic, so the object will touch it as they pass. Of course, this is a reminder from before. Then we have the schedule. Okay, right here, right above here. When we press schedule, we're going to get this menu right here, the menu of the schedule. Here, we are actually choosing when this analytic is going to be active. So exactly with the example from before that we talked about the home property, you remember we talked about how to that we only want this analytic to be active in specific times. So this is exactly what we can do here. Also, we can add some holiday schedule if this helps. Also, there is an ability to do that as well. Now, next, we're going to actually see, okay, those are 3 snapshots taken from the NVR to show you how to do it. But of course, what we're going to do is we're going to show live how to set up line crossing from the camera. So in 1 second, we're going to see it. Okay, this is a live interface right now from our NVR. Okay, you guys can see it right now at the moment. What we're gonna do is to just show how to set up line crossing from the camera and how to search for different events. So we're gonna go into the settings, AI event. Okay, we have here AI event. We have all of the different analytics. Of course, you can access all of the analytics from this screen, whether it is a face recognition, LPR, or others, such as line crossing. This is what we're talking about today. Okay, so we are in line crossing, and we're going to choose one of the camera that we dedicated especially for this task today. This is the camera, and we're gonna go back.
Sorry, David, can you improve the resolution of the image? You can hardly see it.
You can hardly see the...
Optimize the video, not optimize.
Yes, 1 second. How about now?
Perfect, thank you. While you explain, just please touch the topic of alarm. There's 2, when you go to line crossing, there is the duration. I would like you to speak 1 second about it, and about the alarm handling time as well.
Okay, so the duration of the recognition, okay, where we see here that it is 20 seconds, you can choose how much seconds this event is going to take. So whenever a person is crossing the line, as we can see right now, it means that this event will take place for 20 seconds. After 20 seconds, this event has finished. While this event is happening during those 20 seconds, there can be more events, more people. It doesn't mean that there is only one person that can pass this line during those 20 seconds. This is what we call the alarm holding time. Why would we use it? We will use it to determine the amount of time to be recorded, for example, or the amount of time that the alarm output will be kept open when we choose a trigger such as alarm output, which we can also see under triggers. Okay, and here, for example, you can choose all of the triggers you want, whether it is email or alarm out. Of course, you can choose alarm out that are connected through cameras and such. What was the other thing, Amnon, you wanted me to talk about?
Well, there are 2 things that you mentioned when it comes to time. One is here, the recognition time, duration, and in the triggers, the holding time of the trigger. It's 2 different times that we talk about, correct?
Here we don't have the holding time in the trigger itself.
Okay, so only for the analytic itself.
Yeah, it's the trigger is based on the trigger that we are getting from the NVR. For example, the alarm out is based on the amount of time that this event is taking place. So this is where we choose the amount of time to take place by this event, 3 seconds, 5 seconds, or 2 minutes, or anything in the middle. And for this amount of time, we will have the trigger that we chose here. Of course, it's not going to send email for 20 seconds, but it will record for those 20 seconds, or will give us an alarm output for those 20 seconds. Anything that includes time in it. So this is how to set the line crossing. We can see here the different lines. Okay, exactly what we saw in the camera itself. Line number 1, line number 2, 3, and 4. And of course, 4 doesn't exist, so you can just draw a line, and you can choose the direction, and you can choose the sensitivity for each one of the objects and whether or not to even detect some kind of an object, and then you can just save it. That's it, it's saved. This is it. The setting is super simple. And how to search for a different event, so it is even simpler. All we have to do is to go into the analytics. Okay, there are multiple ways, but for example, if you're searching for human beings, okay, we're searching for humans, and under event, we will choose line crossing. We're gonna press OK and search. We have here 2 pages with 36 events. All of the events, as we can see, are coming exactly from this camera with, of course, the ability. I'm pretty sure that all of you know our NVR ability, so we don't need to go into those. But of course, yes, you can just search for the line crossing, play the video, back it up. You can see the cutout image for the exact human that was detected, or you can watch the scene. So you will see the entire frame of that moment that was captured. You can back up picture or the record of that entire page, okay, into the SD card by simply just marking all of those events and back it up. So I don't want to drift away to things that we're not talking about today. But yes, a lot of different things that you can do. From here, we're going to close this, the OBS, okay? So this is exactly what we just saw, okay, in the NVR itself. We have the ability to do the same thing on the VMS. Okay, we just saw how to do it on the NVR. Now we're talking about the VMS. So I'm going to show us the VMS in
while David is opening it. VMS, for the ones not familiar with it, video management software system, where you can monitor, multiply sites from one screen. Basically, what we wanted to show you here, that the setting that David explained in the beginning and the camera, how to set up the line and the schedule and the sensitivity and the direction of the crossing and everything. As you saw, the interface look exactly the same whether you are inside the camera interface, the web browser of the camera, whether you are inside the NVR, or if you are inside the VMS, which David is showing us now. It looks exactly the same way in the same method of settings. So once you understood one, you understood all of them. Go ahead, David.
Yeah. Thank you, Amnon. That was very important to say. We keep consistency in the, we try to keep it everywhere, including on the settings. So right now we're on the VMS. I think you guys can see it. Is it good? Can you see it good, Amnon?
We see it very, very, very small.
It's small. Yes, I know it's small. I'm sorry. You know what? Let's try to do something else. Okay, let's do it here. And share screen number 1. Okay, is that better?
Yes, much better. Thank you. So this is the VMS, guys.
Okay, this is the VMS. I'm going to show you from the beginning. We can see here. Okay, we can see the main interface. Let's go close the live view. Resource management. This is where we can see the cameras. Okay, we can see the devices, the NVRs, DVRs, and cameras. We have here device settings that will take us into the device settings. Then all we have to do is to choose our device. Okay, we're gonna choose the device. We're gonna choose our desired camera that we want to set, and we're gonna choose our setting. So you have some basic settings such as resolution and stuff like this, and also more advanced settings such as artificial intelligence, line crossing, and DDA, and all of these. So we have here the line crossing. Okay, this is exactly the same camera from before. You can see that even the setting that we saved from before from the NVR has influenced into here, into the VMS. The vehicle is not marked, okay? And you have here the same abilities like before with the 4 lines that you can draw, and you can clear, and you can draw in a different, okay, in a different location, and apply, and you can save it. Everything is the same. So this is how to set up the analytic itself from the VMS. And if you want to watch your, to search for an event, then one of the ways to do it would be to go here into search by event. Okay, playback and backup, we're gonna search by event. Pretty much, we're just going to search, for example, from this camera. And on the bottom, okay, we have all kinds of recordings that we can search for, all kinds of events, POS, sensor, motion. So I took everything out, and I only keep behavior analysis, which includes inside line crossing and sterile area. So once we press the search button, we can see the setting that we chose. So we can see line crossing detection took place at 11:58. We can watch the playback. Okay, we can see that every part, every event like this will for sure include a person or maybe a two-wheel vehicle that passed the line. Okay, it's not like we're going to see a dog that's walking or a cow that is walking there. Most likely we're going to see a vehicle or a person, and not things that are flying through the air. Okay. Just really small input about this section right here. Not only that you can play back the part that you want, you can also back it up straight from here into your computer. And if your client is having difficulties or is not very technical and really can't do it, then you can help him. You can just tell the client to plug a discon key, okay, a pen drive into his NVR. He plugs this discon key into his NVR. Then you do exactly what I'm doing from here. Just mark his recording, his events that you want to download, and you press on this button right here to backup on device. So basically, okay, you are going to back up the recordings that you want into his remote device. You don't even have to be on the same network or in the same country as your client. Okay. Next thing that we're going to do is to show the, one second, we're going to show the how to search for an event from the application.
So while David is connecting his phone, what I can tell you, we're going to see now the Provision-Cam 2 and how am I searching for analytics such as this on my phone, on the app. As you know, Provision-ISR is dedicating a lot into the app. So we believe in the app. It's part of our world in general. And almost everything you can do locally on the camera or on the NVR, you can do also on the app itself. One more thing, while David is connecting his phone, I'm going to send on the chat box a survey for later on for you to try to find a minute to fill up. This will help us to improve, of course, that's the entire idea. So take your time and find it on the chat box. Go in later and fill any comments you have on today's seminar. Go ahead, David.
Thank you, Amnon. Thank you very much. Okay. Okay, so we have here the application. Okay, we have here in the application, we can see live view of one of the cameras. Of course, we're not gonna talk a lot about the application, we're just gonna see how to search for the event from the application. So what we will do will be to press this button right here, those 3 little dots, okay? Once we do it, we're gonna get all of the menus that has something to do with analytics. whether it is searching for a face or for a different kind of a thing, such as search by event. This is what we're going to choose. We have here some options: face, human, vehicle, or a combination. So let's choose, in our case, let's choose human. Okay. Under type, we can choose what kind of an event we're searching for, whether it is a sterile area, line crossing, or line statistics. In the next month, we're gonna show the sterile area, but today we are only on the line crossing. So once we are filtering by line crossing, we will get events from any camera that is set to do line crossing. In our case, it's only one, and we're going to press the start searching button. We actually get exactly the same results as we saw before with the VMS. Okay, we can see exactly the same. You have the cutout image that shows you the person that was walking. Okay, a small image to represent the recording that you're about to see. You can see the name of the camera, and you can see the time. Okay, when exactly that thing was happening. So we're just gonna choose one of these events. Okay, immediately we get a bigger image in order to see not only the cutout, but all the frame. And once we press the button in the middle, we're gonna get directed into the playback in no time. And of course, there is a pre-record of about 5 to 10 seconds. So in a few seconds, we're going to see the person that we just saw, or the two persons, walking and crossing the line. And of course, that from here, you can also pause it, and you can also zoom in digitally in order to see better what is happening over there. You can also download this. Okay, you can press this button, the download button, in order to download exactly the part that you're looking for into your phone, just like this, and start download. In this case, I will cancel it, but yes, you can practically do everything. And once we go back on our screen, we're gonna get back into the event list. So we can straight away, we can choose a different event, and we can start to investigate that event as well. You can also choose from what camera you are going to get your event. Okay, so you can search for all of the cameras all at once. But since we only filtered out line crossing, then we only get line crossing. And of course, if we'll choose other analytics as well, we're gonna get results from other cameras that support this as well. Okay, let's move back into our presentation. Okay, our final part will be fine tuning. Okay, this is the final part of our session today. What is fine tuning? Normally, back in the days, once we install a camera, then we install the camera and we go home. This is it. We can ask our client later after a month if it's okay, because the camera records by motion and it's very straightforward. But in analytic, we should make sure that the analytic is actually doing its job properly, and that everything is actually working like it should. So one thing that we need to actually do is to contact our client. Okay, sometime after that we installed the camera and we set the DDA and everything, we need to make sure that everything is okay, that everything is working, and the recognition is expected, and everything is good. Now, another important thing will be to keep a connection from you into the end client, at least for a short period of time. Okay, at least for like a week or 2 weeks, so that you and us, we can help in order to set up the camera better, to fine tune it after the initial installation. Okay, so we can improve the success rate and the recognition rate of those cameras. Now, if the system performance is not satisfactory for you, the reasons are usually will be settings or environmental conditions. What we talked about the spider, but not only spiders, a lot of things that can change on the scene, and installation. So of course, that if we're talking about setting, okay, and in most cases we will need some fine tuning in regards to settings. We need to fix things, to place the line a little better. So a badly positioned line, like in this example, can cause to do two things. First of all, it can cause to false alarms, which is halfway bad, but in the worst case scenario, it can also cause to no alarms. We prefer to have some false alarms and to see like 10% of false alarms, and but 90% are true, than getting no alarms when something is actually happening. Okay, a burglar entered and stole this buggy car, but the line was placed way too far. The person wasn't detected and no buggy. So how will we correct this this case? In this case, it will be advisable to reposition the line. Of course, we'll just use our healthy logic in order to place it in a way that people will be detected using the guidelines that we mentioned before. Recognition that problems that can be caused because of a poor image, we will probably want to use some features that exist in most of our cameras, such as WDR, BLC, and HLC. Of course, depends on what is the problem with the image. If there is a light source that is dazzling the camera, or maybe some shadow parts that are partly shadow and partly enlightened, so we will use the WDR. So we need to choose what to use. This was for settings. For installation, okay, if we have, if the setting part was done to fill and we can't fix the issue and still the recognition is not satisfactory, then we would probably need to install the camera better. Okay, maybe to move it a little bit or change angle, change height or anything. Of course, then we will just refollow the steps that we talked about before in the installation slide. This is a reminder for the guidelines to use. Now, the final part will be demonstration, but actually we already did the demonstration in the middle. So, okay, I'm going to stop the share now. Yes, I'm not.
So, a few questions. First of all, let's start by saying thank you very much, David. For those of you that need to leave, I will say again that this webinar has been recorded, so you can have access to this recording later on. I will also add that we have the same seminar at 4 p.m. Israel time, which is in about 4 hours from now. So you are welcome to join again or invite any one of your colleagues or friends. So thank you very much for joining us. You are more than welcome to check our website to find out more information about coming seminars. So thank you very much. Now it's time for questions. I will start by asking some questions from the chat box. Some we already answered, but I will repeat them again. First of all, there was some question about is it possible to trigger an audio or a siren? So we already answered it by saying that, first of all, there is a few options when it comes to triggers. We haven't talked a lot about triggers today, but one of them is, of course, triggering an audio out. We have a few possibilities here. The first one is, of course, to activate some kind of a trigger that will activate a siren that you can buy outside. In the VMS, correct me if I'm wrong, David, but in the VMS, we also have the ability to play a specific audio recording that you uploaded.
Yes.
You can either upload a song if you want, or a recorded message that the customer record by himself, and you can have a few of them and actually play the audio when there is a line crossing. Now you can play the audio from the audio out of the camera itself. So if you connected a speaker or a sound bar to the camera audio output, you can play it from the audio. And you can also play it from the NVR audio out as well. So you can choose which audio to play. There was a question. Sorry, David, go ahead.
Yeah, I will really emphasize some part a little bit. When we use the VMS, we upload the audio file into the VMS. The VMS has it. And once the trigger has happened, the event line was crossed, the VMS can send this audio file to be played from the device. You can choose whether to use an NVR. It will normally go into the NVR. The audio will be played through the audio out of the NVR. You can do it also by connecting the audio out to a camera, not necessarily to the NVR. In this case, it's a little bit more technical, but also possible. In order to do that, to have the file played through the camera and not the NVR, we need to just add the camera directly to the VMS, but of course, all is possible. You can play songs, someone said, but of course, it will be better to play like a message of intruder or something else to be triggered as the line was crossed.
There was a question about dogs or animal in general, and I would like to comment on it as well. Provision-ISR camera know how to distinguish between the humans and the animals. And it does it in a very good results. But you all need to understand that there's no system that is immune from false readings. There's no 100% accuracy between human. You know, even our eyes sometimes can mismatch between a dog. You're not very sure that it's a dog or a human being that is crawling. You know, our technical manager, Tal, once told me, I'd rather have sometimes false alarms than no alarms. And so yes, the system might be recognized once in a while a dog that might be a very big dog that looks like a person. But in general, saying the system know how to distinguish between human beings and animals, and it won't have mismatches. Some people ask me about the grid when David showed the proportion of the object in the total view. He showed it by using a grid on the image. And some people ask me if this grid is viewable, is actually viewable on the camera or on the NVR. So as far as I know, David, it's not at the moment, but we are working to add it, correct?
Correct.
Thank you very much. Another question that was asked here, in which camera we can find this analytic. So first of all, you should know that it's available in all Provision-ISR iSight V2 series. This is basically, as of today, Provision-ISR carry two main series in IP cameras. First one is S-Sight and the second one is iSight. This type of analytic exists in all iSight V2 series from day one. By the way, it does not matter the firmware. The firmware is only improving the analytic or adding more features, but it's available from day one.
There is a question that I don't think got an answer. Somebody asked,
Yes, about line crossing and people counting?
No, about if it's possible to have a recording 24/7, but getting the trigger only at the specific times.
Go ahead.
So yes, you can do it. The recording can take place all the time. Like a recording for the recording will be basically a recording for this analytic or motion or 24/7 recording. But the events are going to be sent by the NVR only on the schedule that we have set on the camera. Remember the schedule on the settings of the line crossing. This is where this analytic is going to be active. So the recording is going to be all the time for 24/7. But those events are going to be sent only on that time. It is important to say that the NVR won't record those analytics. I hope I will explain it correctly, but it won't record the analytics with, for example, filtering. You won't be able to know that there was a line crossing on the recording while the line crossing schedule was off. Okay, because the camera was from the camera's point of view, it was disabled. But the NVR will keep on recording even though the people passed and didn't pass and a lot of things happened. The NVR will record, but won't send out triggers.
One last remark People ask me about people counting. Very realistic for today's COVID period. People counting is based on line crossing. Not necessarily we do line crossing for people counting. So we can define line crossing because we want to get an alert when somebody comes in through the gate, through the wall, through the surrounding perimeter, or through the entrance. We just want to get an alert in a schedule or not. People counting is based on line crossing, but it's a whole different menu. And when we talk about people counting, we want to have more feature, not just to know that somebody crossed the line, but we want to count it. So we want to count how many came in, how many people went out, and how many people right now inside. So there is a whole new menu related for people counting or object counting for that matter. It can also be vehicle counting, but it's based on line crossing. We start with the fact that we draw a line to cross, and we tell the system where is the coming and where people is coming from, and where they exit from, which direction, in order to count and to have a summary of that count. So for the question of people counting, again, people counting is based on line crossing, but it's a different menu. The camera cannot do 2 analytic at a time. Either it's doing line crossing, either it's doing stereo area, either it's doing people counting, which is based on line crossing, or either it do face recognition. It cannot do 2 or 3 of different analytic or different tasks. It can only act as one camera that do one type of analytic. Hope I managed to answer that question as well. And that's it for now. Don't see any other questions. We are here for the next 5 more minutes. If anyone has any more questions, you are more than welcome to write it in the chat or to open your mic. Other than that, thank you very much for joining, and hope to see you in our next seminars. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Amnon.